All right, I don't know how you feel about this whole transgender thing, but whether you are for recognizing how they feel or someone feels about his or her own sexuality or not, what this has led to is a decree, essentially out of the White House, that school systems, public institutions around the country have to sort of get with the program. And the program being to recognize that transgenders have rights, and that would include bathroom rights. So does that mean that school systems have to set up new bathrooms, maybe new changing room, shower stalls, that sort of thing? It's anyone's guess, but obviously the schools are afraid, or public institutions are afraid, that they could lose vital federal funding if they don't go along with something they still don't understand. For Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, is that what the book, Broken But Unbowed? It's not new, but it's out. The issue isn't whether you're for or against transgenders. It's whether you are for or against the federal government telling you what to do, or telling states like Texas and others what to do. He joins us right now in the flesh. First time I've seen you in the flesh. Governor, thanks for coming.
Good to see you, sir.
So your point is, no, Mr. President, you do not have this right.
You're exactly right. You chose the perfect word. You said it was a decree. Here's the reality, and that is, whatever your concern is in the United States of America, there is a body created by the Constitution to address that concern, and it's called Congress. There are three branches of government. The branch that makes the law is Congress. What the president has done is he has overridden Congress. Congress voted on this issue multiple times about whether or not to grant transgender status into the Civil Rights Act, into Title IX, and they chose not to. After they chose not to, the president issued his own decree about the way law should be. That turns the Constitution on its head. And what the president is doing, and the reason why Americans are so upset in this presidential election, is because the president is using fiat to determine what the laws are. The United States of America was a country built to get away from the rule of a king, from the rule of man, and get to the rule of law. And we are undermining the rule of law in the United States of America with this decree from the president.
But, Governor, the president says he will win out. The courts will decide he's right. Obviously, make no reference to Congress.
Of course, he said that. Right. However, he did not tell you that he lost last week in a court where his decree about Obamacare was overridden.
The funding issue.
He didn't mention how he lost at the United States Supreme Court with regard to the Clean Power Plan, his decree about global warming.
He's appealing that Obamacare funding thing. But let me ask you this. Do you think that North Carolina, maybe prior to that Charlotte, mishandled it by jumping to a law in Charlotte to secure these transgender rights, and then all of a sudden North Carolina to say, no, wait a minute. Could this have been handled without slapping laws down? Either way.
Well, we actually went through this in Texas, and I'll tell you how it happened in Texas and how it's all washed out. The mistake, if you would, by Charlotte, and I'm not sure they took a vote citywide. I don't think they did.
They did not.
And statewide, they did not take a vote. In Houston, Texas, a decree was issued by the leaders of the city, and the citizens of the city went nuts about it. And so there was a referendum called, and when the referendum was up for vote, the citizens of the fourth largest city in America voted it down. And that was in November of this last year. And it caused no economic chaos. It caused none of this public hand-wringing that we've seen, in part because it was a decision by the people.
I know. So if Oregon is for this type of thing, Oregon can do its own thing. Texas is not. Texas does its own thing. Now, the reason why I ask the question is because the president comes back and says, well, we can't have 50 different policies running around our country.
But the way the Constitution was designed, the way the United States of America was designed, included the 10th Amendment, which said all laws and powers not delegated to the United States are reserved to the states. This power is not delegated to the United States of America. Hence, it is reserved to the states.
The president had been comparing, and that is Loretta Lynch, his Attorney General, this treatment of transgenders as akin to the Jim Crow laws. What did you think of that?
It is offensive, but also ignorant for her to say that for this reason. If you would, she related it to race-based laws. Race is based upon biology. science. The Democrats pride themselves in being the party of science. Here, though, they are ignoring science. It's the science of designation of gender status at birth. You're either a male by birth or a female by birth. 99.9% of the times, you have double X chromosomes or XY chromosomes.
What if I'm a male by birth and I don't feel I'm a male by birth? I feel I'm a woman, and I want to go to the woman's room.
And that is not science.
So I would have no right to go to a women's room in that event.
Well, it depends on what the governmental body wants to decide. By law, you would not have a right.
Okay, so Oregon saying that, yeah, that's the way to do it, is different than a state like Texas saying, well, we're going to handle this on a case-by-case basis and not establish a law per se.
If we are going to be a country that operates under the Constitution, that includes the 10th Amendment, then it should be a state-by-state decision.
Okay. You know, Governor, the one thing that confuses me on this, and I always say this, regardless of your views on transgenders, they're 0.3% of 1% of the population. And there might be many more feel this way and just haven't shown it yet. But they are effectively dictating policy now across the country for 99.7%. What do you think of that?
A, that's wrong, but B, put that aside.
That's wrong. I think my stats are right.
Your stats are right. The only
but that's a stretch for them to push that much of a minority. Right. The will of the people.
Exactly. Well, why should more than 99% of the girls and boys who go to high school be forced to go through the process that's being dictated by less than 1/2 of 1% of the people of this country? But put all that aside, as you said earlier. That's not the issue. Once we start talking about social engineering, we get away from the core principle. The core principle is what I outline in this book right here, and that is whether or not we are a country based upon the Constitution or we're not. Once we get away from the Constitution, then we are subject to the whims of the blowing winds of whatever the feelings are at that particular time.
So when people look at you, Governor, and say, you know, you're in a wheelchair, you've had overcome enormous odds. So those who know your position on this say, certainly this type of guy should be sympathetic to us. You say?
Exactly. I am sympathetic to everyone in the United States of America. However, what I do know, if we abandon the Constitution, we will no longer have an America that can be sympathetic to everyone.
Governor, thank you very much. Broken but Unbowed is the book, The Governor of Texas, and this battle rages on and on and on.